Listen, I'm running for DA, and DA is essentially the same thing that solicitor is, and that's the job of prosecutor. Our job is to keep your neighborhood safe. Our job is to do justice. What should a good prosecutor be? What would a good district attorney be? Well, I believe it's three things. It's competent, compassionate, and committed to keeping your neighborhood safe and restoring justice to our communities. But you have to be all three, because if you're all bulldog and you don't have any compassion, then that's really injustice, and we've seen the examples of that. If you're all compassion and social work and no bulldog, then folks are breaking in your houses and your sheds, and you're not getting the response that you need. And if you're not competent, then none of the last two matter, right? So you have to be all three. So let's start real quick. Competence. I started my career about 11 years ago in Rockdale County. Very quickly after I was hired there, I was promoted to the position of Director of State Court, which means state court is a court where all misdemeanors are prosecuted. A misdemeanor is a crime for which you can receive 12 months in jail or less, or $1,000 fine. We typically call them petty crimes in local lingo. I was out there for about 2.5, 3 years. I was allowed to try cases in Superior Court while I was out there, so I tried rapes and things like that. But I took a job here in Dekalb County. J. Tom Morgan, who was in the DA, hired me as a prosecutor. I spent a 1.5 years on the trial line, and I tried everything from armed robberies to kidnapping cases, and I even tried a serial rapist with the then Chief Assistant, John Petrie, and we got 4 consecutive life sentences without parole. And it's really nothing to brag about when you put someone away for the rest of their life, but this guy was a scary man. Very, very, very scary. He had raped 15 women in North Carolina in the early 80s, came to Georgia, raped an Emory student, in the middle of the night, and the only way we caught him was through it was sort of a CSI kind of thing. It was a combined DNA index system we called a CODIS, and we caught him 3 years after the fact. After that trial, I'd only been in the office 18 months. After that trial, even though I was one of the youngest members of the office, I was promoted to the position of special prosecutor, where I served for 3.5 years as a crimes against children prosecutor. And I prosecuted everything from rape cases, child rape cases, child discipline cases, and I call them discipline, but it's really discipline gone way, way overboard. And I'm not talking about when little Johnny gets a spanking. I mean those cases where children have whelps and cuts all over their back and faces and things of that nature. I tried aggravated sodomy cases, and I also tried child murder cases. And at one point I had more child murder cases that I was carrying on my docket than anybody in the county. And we typically, most child murder cases are what we call shaken baby cases, where parents or either caregivers get frustrated and they shake the baby to death. You guys may have heard about one of my cases. It was high profile. It was a case where a couple actually killed their child, threw the baby's body in a field in North Harrison, and said the child was kidnapped. It was about 5 or 6 years ago when that case came up, and that was my case. After about 3.5 years doing that stuff, because that will drive you crazy if you do it too much, because that's what I did every single day for about 3.5 years. And in the DA's office, I worked for J. Tom Morgan, Jeff Brickman, and Gwen Keys Fleming. Gwen Keys Fleming left the solicitor's office, ran for DA. She was my boss for approximately 11 months, and she asked me if I would, run for her old spot, which was solicitor. I ran for the solicitor's office, and that's where I've been for the last 4 years. Snapshot of the solicitor's office, we've done a couple things. Number one, we've addressed truancy in the county. All right? Truancy was a big problem. There were 16,000 children who had 15 plus absences in school. And Decatur doesn't have as much of a problem as the unincorporated areas, but it was a big problem. We reduced it by 25%. What did? We held parents accountable for their children's attendance. And y'all may have seen some stuff on the news because, I got frustrated at one point when we sent out about 25 officers looking for parents who had 9 and 10-year-olds who had been out of school for 50 days. And there were some arrests made, and it made a big stink, and I caught some criticism, but it works. And I don't apologize for it. Listen, if you've got a 9-year-old and they're missing 50, 60 days of school, then somebody needs to have a conversation with you, and if you don't respond, then you need some adult timeout. That's a nice way of saying it. And so we did that. We also started the first, and what I'm very proud of, the first emergency shelter network for seniors in the nation. The fancy term for it is emergency placement. And what we were seeing, and we were talking to Chief Booker and Chief Lee and the fire chiefs, what we were seeing is that what happens is that when seniors have caregivers, And you're talking about people who cannot take care of themselves. And when those caregivers either have a heart attack or a stroke, you've got a 55-year-old daughter taking care of her mother or grandmother, or when they're abusive, and the person is, and the caregiver is removed from the home, for the first 48 to 72 hours, there's no place for the senior to go. And they were being dropped off at the doorstep of Grady or Dekalb Medical or Emory Hospital, which is bad. Anybody that's in healthcare knows that's a bad thing. You don't want seniors in the ER that are not sick, because oftentimes they become sick when you leave them in the ER. And so we partnered with the city of Decatur, we partnered with Dekalb County, we partnered with Emory Healthcare, and we partnered with several other agencies, and we created a network by which we could move them very quickly from the house to Emory. They would be interviewed and examined by a gerontologist for signs of abuse at Emory. His name is Dr. Tom Price. And then after that process is done, Emory donated bed space, two beds a month for up to 30 days for seniors that are there until we can find more permanent placement. First system like that in the nation. I actually flew out to San Diego and a lot of other places to study places that had remnants of it and put it together here. So you want a competent prosecutor, and I believe, my record speaks for itself in terms of competence. I manage an office of 75 people, 25 lawyers, and a $5 million budget as a Solicitor General. The next thing that you want is somebody that's compassionate. Because again, we can't always be bulldogs, and we've got kids 17 to 25 that are committing petty crimes, and they're going out and they're getting that first conviction, and 10, 15 years later, they want to get a job, and they want to be a lawyer, they want to be a business owner, they want to be a doctor, they want to get a job in one of your businesses. You run their criminal history, they've got a conviction for shoplifting, and you say, no. And so what we did was we created a program, again, the first of its kind, called Jobs Not Jail. We partnered with DeKalb High School, with the high schools in DeKalb County. We partnered with Atlanta Metropolitan College, with DeKalb Technical College. And what we said to these young people, we're going to have you interviewed by a forensic psychologist to see if you have any issues. Are you learning disabled? Do you have any mental issues? After we go through the assessment phase, the next 3 months, we have the people in job training, job skills. They have to come to class dressed for success, pull up the pants, act like you're actually going for a job when they see us, get drug tested randomly. After they go through that next phase, if they can make it through that second phase, because the second phase is very tough, everybody has to go to school in the second phase, college, high school, GED, they got to go to school. Third phase, we actually get them into the job market, or we actually keep them in school if school is more appropriate for that individual. For the people who can stay clean all year, we dismiss their record, we dismiss their case and expunge their records. For the people who have been able to graduate, none of them have become recidivists, none of them have gone back out and committed more crime. I've been president for about a year of the Georgia Association of Solicitor Generals, and it's something that I've been trying to push to the other misdemeanor prosecutors around the state. And so I'm very proud of that program in terms of our compassion. Last thing I want to tell you about is being committed to restoring justice. I know there are bad people in this world. I chased the boogeyman for 4 years. People who did awful things to kids. I've seen kids, people who have done awful things to adults. I know that there are people that are in our community. I know that in most communities, whether they're high income or low income, 95 to 99% of the people are doing the right thing. It's at 1% that brings down the whole neighborhood. It's at 1%. I want to work with the neighborhood associations. I want to work with the local municipalities and key in on the 1%, be it a business or be it an individual or a combination of both. Work with the local police departments and remove those people from the community. Because all the things that I just said don't matter if your quality of life is not maintained. I live down the street on Gresham Road. I'm about to move because I'm getting married in December. Yeah, a lot going on. I'm about to move. My house, I bought a Craftsman. My house was burglarized twice, and I was a Solicitor General. Didn't matter how much money I made, didn't matter my education. All that mattered was that I have a 3-year-old daughter that could not play in the front yard. That I was worried if I left home for more than one day if someone was going to be taking my television out. I want to work with you all right, to come up with some answers on how to fix that. As your Solicitor, I'm sorry, I keep saying Solicitor General. I'm running for DA now. As your DA. I believe together we can fix it. Government doesn't have all the answers. There's a lot of smart people, that are civilians that have good answers, but you just have to be willing to listen. And so I'm going to be out here listening. I'm Robert James. I'm running for DA. I've got a lot more to say, but I don't want to, take over y'all's meeting, so I appreciate you being attentive. Anybody have any questions before I get out of here?
This is Gwen Keyes
Yes.
Fleming's position.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Gwen has been my mentor since I was a sprout out in Rockdale County. She's the one that actually encouraged me and helped me win the solicitor seat. I am probably a little more aggressive on the community crime aspect. I believe in using asset forfeiture laws, and community prosecutors to remove people and to remove businesses that are cancers. You've got these street corner stores that are doing all the things that they shouldn't be doing. I believe, after you get 3 or 4 convictions out of one of these places, you need to file a lawsuit against them and get them out of the community. I believe that as a public official, I'm a CEO and you guys are shareholders and you should see measurable results. And if you've got money, if you're a majority stockholder in a corporation and you don't see a measurable difference in your pocketbook, then you're going to be looking for a new CEO. And it should be the same way in government. And so if your neighborhood's not better and safer, if I'm not responsive, then it'll be 2 years because I'm filling an unexpired term. You need to be looking for somebody else to fill this seat. So any other questions? Thank you. I'm going to leave a couple of my business cards. I believe in business cards and not literature because nobody keeps your literature and it's invasive and people are like, yeah, it's too big. It has some of my qualifications on my back